What if the most powerful German general of World War II wasn't a Nazi fanatic, but an aristocrat who secretly despised Hitler? Gerd von Rundstedt commanded millions of men, masterminded victories from Poland to France, and oversaw defences on D-Day. Yet he never supported Hitler's ideology. So why did this Prussian field marshal keep fighting for a cause he didn't believe in, and how did his choices shape the war's outcome? Gerd von Rundstedt was born in 1875 into an aristocratic Prussian military family. He grew up steeped in the traditions of discipline, loyalty, and service that had defined the Prussian officer corps for generations. By the First World War, he was already a professional officer, rising steadily through the ranks. He served with distinction but never achieved the fame of Germany's battlefield heroes. In fact, when the war ended in 1918, he was a colonel, solid, professional, and respected, but not a household name. The interwar years were not kind to Rundstedt's ambitions. The Treaty of Versailles reduced the German army to just 100,000 men. Advancement was slow, and political turmoil in Weimar Germany made military life uncertain. By 1932, he was a general, but 4 years later, at the age of 61, he retired. He seemed destined to fade into obscurity as an old soldier of a vanished world. But then came Adolf Hitler. The Führer rearmed Germany, expanded the army, and demanded experienced officers. Rundstedt was recalled in 1938, just before the storm broke over Europe. He did not admire Hitler, nor did he trust the Nazi Party, but for Rundstedt, duty was everything. When his country called, he answered. In September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Rundstedt was given command of Army Group South, the southern wing of the German attack. His forces struck from Silesia toward Krakow and Lwow, coordinating with Army Group North under Fedor von Bock. The campaign was a brutal demonstration of Blitzkrieg, tanks, aircraft and infantry working in unison. Rundstedt's troops encircled large Polish formations in battles like Radom, cutting off retreat and forcing mass surrenders. Rundstedt, though conservative by nature, proved capable of directing fast-moving operations on a grand scale. But it was in 1940, during the invasion of France, that his name became truly known. Hitler's generals had debated how to defeat France, remembering the bloody stalemate of World War I. The final plan, largely crafted by Erich von Manstein but executed under Rundstedt's command, was daring. A surprise armoured thrust through the Ardennes forest, considered impassable for tanks. Rundstedt commanded Army Group A, the spearhead of the invasion. On May 10, 1940, German forces stormed into the Low Countries. While the Allies rushed north to meet the feint, Rundstedt's columns poured through the Ardennes. At Sedan, Heinz Guderian's panzers smashed across the Meuse River under Rundstedt's overall authority. Within days, they broke through the French line and raced to the Channel coast. The French and British armies were trapped. Rundstedt's campaign was a masterpiece of operational warfare, and yet, at Dunkirk, his caution proved decisive. With British forces cornered, Rundstedt advised halting the panzer advance to regroup and protect flanks. Hitler agreed, issuing the infamous halt order. For 2 crucial days, German armour stood still. Those hours allowed the Royal Navy to evacuate more than 300,000 Allied troops. Churchill called it a miracle. Some historians have blamed Hitler, others have blamed Rundstedt, but either way, the halt at Dunkirk was one of the war's great turning points, saving Britain's army and ensuring the war would go on. For his role in France, Rundstedt was promoted to Field Marshal. At 64, he was one of the oldest men to hold such a rank, but he was not a revolutionary thinker like Guderian or Rommel. He was a traditionalist, cautious, skeptical of overreach, and deeply suspicious of Hitler's impulsive decisions. That conservatism would shape his future campaigns. In June 1941, Operation Barbarossa began, the invasion of the Soviet Union. Rundstedt was given command of Army Group South, the largest of the 3 invasion forces. His mission was to seize Ukraine, the industrial and agricultural heartland of the USSR. His armies surged forward, capturing cities like Lvov and Zhytomyr. Then came one of the largest encirclements in history, the Battle of Kiev. Here, Rundstedt coordinated with Fedor von Bock's Army Group Center, which turned south to encircle Soviet forces around Kiev. The result was catastrophic for the Red Army. Over 600,000 Soviet soldiers were captured. It was one of the greatest German victories of the war. Rundstedt had overseen a massive strategic success, one that opened the road deeper into Ukraine. But by November, his caution resurfaced. His armies had reached Rostov-on-Don, the gateway to the Caucasus oil fields, but supply lines were stretched, men were exhausted, and winter was setting in. Rundstedt advised withdrawal. When Hitler refused, Rundstedt took the extraordinary step of ordering a retreat anyway. The Führer was furious and dismissed him on December 1, 1941. It would not be the last time their disagreements clashed. After several months in retirement, Rundstedt was recalled in 1942 and placed in command of the Western Front. His task: defend France against an Allied invasion. Rundstedt immediately set about strengthening defences, but he faced a deep strategic debate with one of his subordinates, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. Rundstedt believed in a mobile defence, holding armoured divisions inland where they could counter-attack the Allies after the landings. Rommel, hardened by his experience in North Africa, argued that Allied air supremacy would make movement impossible. He insisted that the invasion had to be crushed on the beaches. Hitler, as usual, refused to fully commit to either plan, leaving the defence split and confused. By June 1944, the showdown came. On June 6, D-Day began. Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. Rundstedt, the commander-in-chief west, was unable to act decisively. Hitler held personal control over key panzer divisions and refused to release them until the invasion was already secure. Rundstedt quickly realized the situation was hopeless. He bluntly told Hitler's staff, "Make peace, you fools. What else can you do?" For that remark, he was dismissed once again. Yet Hitler could not do without him. In September 1944, after the Allies had broken out of Normandy, Rundstedt was reinstated. He oversaw German defences during Operation Market Garden, the ambitious Allied attempt to seize bridges in the Netherlands. Though Rundstedt was not directly on the battlefield, his forces managed to hold, leading to the costly Allied defeat at Arnhem, the famous Bridge Too Far. But Germany was on the defensive, and desperation grew. In December 1944, Hitler launched the Ardennes offensive, the Battle of the Bulge. Rundstedt was nominally in command, but in reality, Hitler controlled the plan. Rundstedt doubted the operation, warning that Germany lacked the resources, yet he obeyed orders. The attack achieved initial surprise, nearly splitting the Allied front. But within weeks, American resistance at Bastogne and rapid Allied counterattacks crushed the offensive. Germany had shot its last bolt. By March 1945, as the Allies crossed the Rhine and poured into Germany, Rundstedt was dismissed for the final time. Old, tired and bitter, he faded into obscurity as the Reich collapsed. After the war, Rundstedt was captured by the British. His name was linked to the infamous Commissar Order, which demanded the execution of Soviet political officers, and to atrocities committed by units under his command in the East. However, unlike some of his peers, Rundstedt was never tried for war crimes. His advanced age and poor health spared him from Nuremberg. He lived quietly in Hanover until his death in 1953. So, how should history remember Gerd von Rundstedt? Militarily, he was cautious, conservative, but competent. He oversaw both stunning victories, like France 1940 and Kiev 1941, and costly mistakes, such as Dunkirk and his inability to prevent the Allied landings in Normandy. Politically, he despised Hitler, but never resisted him. He was loyal to the traditions of the army, but blind to the moral catastrophe unfolding around him. Unlike Rommel, who became a legend, or Manstein, who became known as a brilliant strategist, Rundstedt remains a shadowy figure. His greatest victories were often shaped by others: Manstein's plan in France, Guderian's panzers at Sedan, or Kleist's drive to Kiev. Yet his signature is on the orders. His authority commanded the armies, and his decisions shaped the fate of Europe. His story is ultimately the story of the German officer corps itself, professional, proud, but trapped by obedience. Rundstedt once said, "I am a soldier. I obey orders." In that statement lies both his strength and his failure. He was not a Nazi, but his obedience allowed the Nazi war machine to function. His caution sometimes saved German forces from disaster, but his lack of moral courage meant he never stood against the regime he despised. Gerd von Rundstedt remains one of World War II's great contradictions, a commander of immense power who never seized control of his own destiny. So was Gerd von Rundstedt a brilliant general bound by duty, or a cautious relic who enabled a criminal regime by refusing to resist? He won victories that stunned the world, but he also hesitated at key moments, and history turned against him. In the end, his legacy is one of contradiction, proof that even the most powerful generals can become prisoners of their own obedience. But what do you think? Should Rundstedt be remembered as a capable commander who did his duty, or as a man who failed by staying silent when it mattered most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of Hitler's reluctant field marshal, don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow history fans, subscribe for more World War II content, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next episode.